Number one, what is your name, please?
My name is Ed Edwards.
Number two.
My name is Ed Edwards.
Number three.
My name is Ed Edwards.
And here is the extraordinary story of Ed Edwards. I think you'll find it profitable. It says, I, Ed Edwards, was once on the FBI's list of the 10 most wanted criminals in America. Now I am a respected citizen in my community. Here's the story of my dramatic turnabout. As a young boy, I felt that the only way I could gain any recognition was to steal. Eventually, I committed armed robberies, impersonated a federal officer, and was sought for questioning about a double murder. I spent time in the federal penitentiaries in Leavenworth and Lewisburg. It was at the latter prison that I started vocational training and very slowly began to realize that I could still be somebody and return to my rightful and legal place in society. There is a tremendous need for communication between parents and their children. I stress this point in my book, which is titled Metamorphosis of a Criminal, signed Ed Edwards. And Gene Rayburn, we'll go down to you for starting.
Thank you, Gary. Number three, from what Gary just read here, do we infer that you did not have a good relationship with your parents?
This is true.
In what way, number three, in communications, as you indicate?
I was born an illegitimate child, so I never had a real mother to speak of.
Number two, what vocation did you study in prison?
Actually, it was for remodeling of houses.
And is that your business today, number two?
Yes, it is, in addition to writing.
Yeah. Number one, what is your business today?
My business today is writing and lecturing.
Yes. And what vocation did you learn? Did you learn writing while you were in prison?
History.
History? You studied history?
Yes.
The history of the world, general history?
General history.
Yeah. Number two, in prison parlance, what is a screw?
He's a hack, a bull. He's a guard.
Yeah, number three, in prison parlance, what is a bull? No, who is a publisher, number three, of your book?
Hart Publishing Company.
Who?
Hart Publishing Company.
And that takes us please to Kitty.
Number one, did you commit these double murders, or you just wanted for questioning?
I was wanted for questioning, but later they found out it wasn't me.
And number two, why were you on the 10 most wanted list then?
I guess a lot of the FBI men sat around, took a vote, and I won.
Number three, what is considered the maximum security prison in America?
Your Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary.
Number one, how did you finally manage to rehabilitate yourself, and how old were you?
After I got out of prison.
How old were you?
45.
Number two, you stayed in prison till you were 45 years old?
No, I wasn't in prison that long. I was there until I was 36.
Oh, and number three, did you get a proper degree from your studies in prison?
Yes, I did.
Number two, we didn't find out what you studied in prison.
Yes, I mentioned before, to a degree. It had to do with building and construction.
Oh, and number
trades.
three, what did you study?
Hey, the buzzer went and we're going to go to Alan.
Number three, what is a fish?
It's a new man coming into the institution.
Number two, what's a fish?
An easy mark.
Number one?
A new man coming in.
And number one, is it common that a prisoner would tend to have a knife of some kind in prison?
No, it's not common, but there are quite a few around.
And number three, what was your first term, your prison term? How long, what was your first sentence, I mean?
My first sentence was in a reformatory for 2 years.
I see. And your second sentence?
Was also in a reformatory for 2 years.
I see. How old were you when you got out of prison?
The last time I was released, I was about 32.
The last time you were released.
And that takes us please to Peggy.
Number two, do reformatories try to help kids, or are they just in there to do the time and get out?
They're just there to do their time and get out, that's all.
Number three, who was it in prison, and what prison, or did somebody in prison help you to get straightened out? I mean, or did you do it yourself?
Yes, I met a man who was a guard at the penitentiary, and he's the one that helped me to rehabilitate.
Thank you. Number one, can you make a good living writing and lecturing now? I mean, you say
Yes,
you
I
write
have
and
been
lecture.
doing very well.
Thank you. How old were you when you first went to the can, number one? I mean, the jail.
Well, I was first in a reformatory, but actually in jail I was 30.
Thank you. Number two was Lou.
There goes the bell, and that means no more questions. Mark your ballots as you will without consulting amongst yourselves. The audience and I will take a look at our friends over here at number one, number two, and number three. Has everybody got their ballot marked?
No, I haven't got my ballot marked.
Well, that's too bad, because you got to start.
I gotta start. I tell you what I'm gonna do, Gary.
Yep.
It's just like the producers of this show to get a young, all-American looking boy like number three with a prison record. The most unlikely looking one up there. And that's why I voted for him.
All righty, and you got a three show, and then we're going to go to Kitty.
Well, I agree with you, and I think number 2 is marvelous. Oh,
What?
I voted for number 1.
Great, perfect.
Nothing wrong with voting for number one. Nice fella. Alan?
I found that the number 2 did not know what a fish is. A fish, in fact, is a new man in prison, but both 1 and 3 knew that. However, number 3 said a guard helped him rehabilitate himself, and number 1 said he rehabilitated himself once he got out. And that sounds closer to reality to me, so I voted for number 1.
Pair of ones and a three and big.
Well, number 2 said it was practically the same thing as a new man, and I think number 2 looks terrific to be a criminal. He looks so tough. But I always feel, my dear, that it's still, after all, you wouldn't get fooled by somebody like number 2, but number 3 you trust with your life, so I voted for him.
By a variety of logics, we have arrived at the following conclusion. A pair of twos on each end, the votes are all in. Will the real Ed Edwards please stand up? Let's find out, Ed, about your friends. Number 1, sir, what is your real name, please, and what do you do?
My name is Mervyn Spritz. I am the president of the Maryland Council of the Jewish National Fund.
And he does a great job of playing George Raft, too. You notice what he wants to. Number 2, please, tell us about yourself.
The name is Rick Klein. I'm a self-defense teacher, and I also do stunt work.
Yes, sir. Ed, there's one important point. You and I were chatting backstage, and I asked you what was the reaction in your neighborhood when you came out of the reformatory the first time. Were you put down by your fellow citizens, or did they look up to you?
No, when I was released from the reformatory, they looked up to me, and this motivated me to go on to bigger things, because this is why I was out there committing the crime, was for the recognition.
Mm-hmm. And this happens because a lot of people think it's a big shot thing to do, huh?
Yes, this is the more trouble you get into, the bigger you are in their eyes.
Well, I want to tell you, you look like a pretty big man from over here. And thank you very much for being with us, Mr. Edwards, and thank you, gentlemen, also.